Well, it's certainly the story of start to this season for me. Too late again. I really wanted to get this repotted and into a bonsai pot. The theory being there were no flower buds and it hadn't really come into growth. Well, it has now. I've got new growth coming out all over the place. And I would suggest that those would wilt at the very least if this was repotted now. But on top of that, on closer inspection, we do have buds. Now there's not a huge number, but down in the centre of these new growths, in the main, are buds. So we are going to get some blooms. So we will have to switch to plan B, which is, well, let it bloom, let it get on with it, and we'll worry about getting it repotted at a later date. So we will get blooms, and obviously I will feed and keep this plant going and push on those new growths at the same time and produce, a more dense sort of canopy to the thing. I'm not sure I'm going to put wire on this at the moment. I mean, when I repot this, I am going to set it at more like that angle. Simply because if you look at the shape of the trunk in behind all the leaves, the whole thing goes over to one side and just leaves sort of one relatively small piece coming up vertically. That would look better as a side branch. And I think the tree has a better balance. Obviously the leaves are all at a funny angle when you do this sort of thing, but they will straighten up. They will register where the light comes from and twist and actually set themselves flat. So yeah, I think we will set that at that sort of angle when we do eventually repot it. But obviously that's not now, so that's another one I've missed. And several others that I had down to repot now. Just on reflection, I think they've just gone too far. And I know some people seem to think, oh, they'll be okay, but they're also okay in the pot they're in, if you see what I mean. I mean, as long as they're not staying absolutely sodden wet in the winter, which they're not. Well, they've just had periods of absolute wetness this past winter, including -6, -7 for periods of time. So those pots were frozen solid and wet. And they've all come out the other end. They're all fine. So I'm more inclined to think along the lines that they'd be better off waiting till next year when I won't have had a catastrophe in the house that's actually set me back so much. So yeah, another one has missed the boat. Nonetheless, I mean, this is a nice tree. It's got some shape to it. And one day when it gets itself in a bonsai pot, be a nice deep pot, I think it will look nice. But in the meantime, we'll await these blooms, which I haven't seen yet. I haven't got a clue what they look like. I think they're two-tone blooms. So I think they're a very pale pink, almost white, and a darker pink. The sort of two-tone typical azalea blooms. But we will at least get some, providing the buds don't just blast and fall off. It should be okay. I'm keeping it in dappled light at the moment, so it's on the bottom shelf of my staging. The staging is slatted and it's got pots on top, so it does receive dappled sun through the top shelf and the plants that are on the top, but it's certainly not in direct sun, as you'd say, although probably this time of year it'll be all right. But that's where it lives at the moment, and looks like we'll get blooms, but what we won't get is a repot again. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.